The scrapyard smelled like old metal and burned oil. Rain fell gently over the rusted wrecks. Captain Rain wiped the water off his brow as he stared at the ship they had just dragged in. It was huge, an old alien freighter. Broken in half, its rear section almost melted through. The scrapyard dealer laughed. No crew, no power, nothing but junk. Want it for cheap? Rain had a strange feeling. He couldn't explain it. Something about the ship. It didn't feel empty. Still, he nodded. I'll take it. By sunset, the freighter was in his private bay. The lights inside flickered as he powered the backup systems. He stepped through the main hatch, holding a flashlight. "Hello," he called out, just in case. Silence. Rain walked slowly, his boots echoing. On the metal floor, broken crates lay scattered. Wires hung from the ceiling like vines. And the smell stale, musty. Like something forgotten for a long time. He scanned the rooms one by one. Nothing. He reached the cargo hold, large, cold and dark. The door hissed. Open with a rusty groan. Then he heard it. A soft cough. He froze. Another cough, quiet. Weak, coming from the far end of the hold. His light trembled slightly in his hand. "Who's there?" he asked, louder now. No answer. Just the sound of soft breathing. Rain stepped forward, careful, cautious. The beam of his flashlight moved slowly across the floor and then stopped. There, in the corner, a small figure. Curled up, wrapped in a torn blanket. Shivering, it was a girl. Her skin was pale violet, almost glowing under the light. She looked no older than 20. Long, silvery white hair covered part of her face. Her arms were thin. Her body trembled as she hugged herself tighter. Rain stepped closer. She gasped and tried to crawl backward. "It's okay," he said gently, lowering the flashlight. "I won't hurt you." She looked at him wide, glowing eyes filled with fear. She didn't speak. Her lips were dry. Her clothes, sif, you could even call them, that were just rags. She looked like she'd been here for days, maybe weeks. Rayn took off his jacket and slowly extended it toward her. "Take this. You're freezing." She didn't move. "I'm human," he said quietly. "You need help. You're safe now." Finally, slowly, she reached out. Her fingers touched the jacket like it was fire. Then she pulled it around herself and held it tightly. Still no words. Rain sat down on a broken crate a few feet away. "Long have you been here?" "Nothing." He sighed. "All right, I'll ask again later. Let's get you out of this ship." He stood and held out his hand. She didn't take it, but she followed him. Back at the base, Rain brought her into the warm hangar room. The heating panels buzzed as they came on. He gave her water. She drank fast, like someone who hadn't tasted it in days. She still didn't speak. He made soup. She stared at the bowl, then looked at him suspiciously. "It's not poisoned." He smiled. "I promise." She slowly took a spoonful, then another. Then began to eat hungrily. Rain watched her closely. Her face was beautiful in a quiet, alien way. But it was the fear that stood out. Fear buried deep. Like she had seen something she couldn't forget. After she finished eating, he gave her a soft blanket and set up a cot in the corner. "You can sleep here tonight," he said softly. "No one will come in. You're safe." She finally looked at him and whispered something. He almost missed it. "Why?" Rain blinked. "Why? What? Why are you helping me?" Her voice was soft, broken. Rain walked to the door and looked back. "Because I was once lost too." He turned off the light and closed the door, leaving her to rest. But as he walked down the hallway, his mind raced. Who was she? Why was she on that ship alone, freezing and silent? And most importantly, Who left her there? Asterisk. The next morning. Rain stood quietly outside the small room. He had checked the door's security logs. No one had entered or left during the night. Still, part of him feared she might have vanished like a ghost in the dark. But when he opened the door, she was still there, sitting on the edge of the cot, clutching the blanket like it was her last. Shield in the universe. Her eyes darted toward him the second he stepped in. Rain lifted his hands. Just me. She didn't speak. He brought in a fresh set of clothes, loose pants, and a soft hoodie. Nothing fancy, but clean. Here, not much, but better than rags. She stared at the bundle like she didn't know what to do with it. Rain stepped out too. Give her privacy. When he returned, she had changed. The sleeves were too long, but she had rolled them up neatly. Her silver hair had been brushed back with her fingers, and her skin looked less pale than the night before. Still, her eyes held. Something like she was watching for the first sign of betrayal. Feeling any better? Rain asked gently. No answer. He sighed and walked over to the table. I scanned the ship logs. They're corrupted, but I'll keep trying. If you want to talk, I'm here. She watched him work for several minutes. Finally, she whispered, They left me. Rain looked up. Who? She paused. Her hands trembled. Then she looked away. Everyone. Rain didn't push. He knew trauma when he saw it. In his time as a soldier and a salvager, he had rescued others, but none like her. She was different. She didn't just act scared, she looked broken. He kept working silently, watching her from the corner of his eye. Finally, she spoke again. My name is Lyra. Rain smiled gently. Lyra, that's a beautiful name. She didn't respond to the compliment. Instead, she asked, What is? This place. My shipyard. I buy scrap. Old ships, tech. Sometimes things people leave behind. Lyra's voice was hollow. I was left behind. Rain nodded. But I didn't leave you. She looked at him really, looked at him for the first time. There was something cautious in her stare. Like a part of her was trying to believe. Maybe this time, someone meant what they said. Later that day, Rain took her to the med bay. He didn't touch her, just pointed to the scanner chair. I need to make sure you're okay. Just medical scans, no pain, no needles. Lyra stepped back. You don't have to, Rain said quickly. It's your choice. After a pause, she sat. The scanner hummed to life. Lights passed over her skin. Data flowed onto the screen. Rain's eyebrows raised. Vitals. Are weak, dehydrated, malnourished, but you're stable. Lyra didn't seem surprised, but something else appeared on the scan. A small foreign object, embedded in her shoulder. What's this? Rain asked softly. Her body stiffened. Tracker. Rain frowned. Someone tagged you? She nodded. They said I belonged to them. Rain's stomach twisted. Who? Pirates. She didn't answer. Rain turned off the scanner and sat on a stool nearby. You don't belong to anyone, Lyra. She stared at the floor. Then she said, They said I was born for it. Raised in labs. Made for service. When the ship was attacked, they left. They didn't even look back. Rain felt his jaw clench. How? Many others had suffered like this in the dark corners of space, while the rich played politics and the rest of the galaxy looked away. I won't let them find you, he said firmly. That tracker, you want me to remove it? Lyra's eyes widened. They'll come if it stops working. Then we disable it the right way. I've got gear. She looked unsure. Why are you doing this? Rain stood up. Because I've seen monsters, and I'm not one of them. That night, Lyra stayed quiet. She ate again slowly now, no longer like a starving animal. She even asked for more soup. Rayn told her stories. About his days flying with the old Earth Guard. About the time his ship crash-landed on an ice moon and he had to eat ration bars for 3 weeks straight. Lyra smiled, just for a second, but it lit up her entire face. Rain almost dropped his cup. It was the first real expression. He'd seen from her a hint of the person beneath the fear. But as they talked, a silent alarm lit up on his wrist pad. Unauthorized signal detected. Rain's eyes narrowed. He tapped into the feed. A long-range ping had been sent. From the freighter, the tracker had activated. His heart dropped. He looked at Lyra. She hadn't moved. She didn't know, but someone else did, and they were coming. Rain didn't sleep that night. He sat alone in the workshop, watching the blinking red light on his wrist pad tracking signal active. Someone out there had received it, which meant it was only a matter of time before they came. Lyra was still. In the next room, curled under 2 blankets, sleeping for the first time without shaking. Rain looked at her through the security cam feed. She looked peaceful, but fragile, like someone who could vanish with the wrong word. He had to move fast. By morning, he had dismantled the receiver. The signal was still live, but now it would be harder to trace. He needed time to prepare. Defenses, and more importantly, time to understand what he was really protecting. When Lyra woke, she came out wearing the oversized hoodie again. She didn't speak right away, just sat quietly at the table, waiting for him to say something. Rain set a steaming cup in front of her. "You slept better." She nodded once. "No nightmares." "That's a good start." She looked up slowly. "You stayed up all night, didn't you?" Rain didn't deny it. "I had work to do." Lyra stared into the steam of her drink, then whispered, "They'll come for me." Rain leaned forward. "Then we'll be ready." Lyra's voice trembled. No, what? "They are." He raised an eyebrow. "Then tell me." She hesitated. For a long moment, Rain thought she might say nothing. But then, her voice came soft and slow. "I was born in Sector 9 on a station called Varus Lab 4. It wasn't a place for children. It was a factory for genetics. They grew us in tanks, cloned, engineered, not for war, not for science, but for sale." Rain froze. Lyra continued, "We weren't supposed to have names, just numbers. I was L1789, but one of the cleaners, a human woman, she called me Lyra in secret, said I looked like someone she once lost." Lyra's voice cracked slightly, but she kept going. "When I turned 12, they began training me, not in weapons, in obedience, in silence. They wanted perfect servants, silent, pretty, and loyal." Rain clenched his fists under the table. Lyra looked away. "I tried to run once. They broke my legs. After that, I stopped trying." Rain stood up, pacing now. Lyra whispered, "Then the ship happened. One of the traders bought me, said I was low-grade stock, but still useful. On the way to his planet, their ship was hit by pirates. They abandoned me in the hold, just locked it, and ran." Rain turned around. "You've been in that ship ever since?" Lyra nodded. 12 days, no food. Just a broken pipe dripping water. I thought I would die. I hoped I would." Rain's voice was sharp. "Don't say that. You survived." She finally met his eyes. "Because of you." Rain's communicator beeped. He checked it. Unknown vessel approaching from orbit. No ID. No response. He didn't tell Lyra. Not yet. Instead, he said, "We're going to get that tracker out of you today." Lyra went pale. But no more signals. No more fear. You deserve peace. The medbay was cold. Lyra sat on the exam chair again, hugging herself. Rain cleaned the tools. "You sure you're ready?" She hesitated, then nodded. "Do it." The device was buried deep under the skin of her shoulder. Not visible, not even by touch, but the scanner guided him. Rain worked carefully, with precision. Lyra bit her lip, not making a sound, even when it hurt. She didn't flinch. She didn't cry when he finally removed the Trachora small black chip. No bigger than a grain of rice, he dropped it into a containment tube and slammed the lid shut. Lyra let out a breath, like she had been holding it for years. Rain looked at her. It's done. But before she could respond, a blaring alarm echoed through the base. Motion detected. South perimeter. Lyra's face turned white. Rain ran to the security monitor. A dark ship hovered just above the ground. Sleek, silent. Not military, but something worse. No insignia, no lights. No questions. A retrieval unit. They found me. Lyra whispered, .ray, and grabbed his rifle. Then let them try. Asterisk, the black ship didn't land. It hovered above the south perimeter like a silent predator waiting to strike. Rain stood in his control room, staring at the display. The ship had no transponder, no communication signals, just a cold, calculated presence. Like it didn't need to ask questions, because it already knew the answers. They're here for me. Lyra said behind him, her voice hollow. Rain turned. You're not going anywhere with them. She took a step back. You don't understand. They don't ask, they take, they erase. They never fail. Rain's jaw clenched. They've never met me. He moved fast. All exits were sealed. Defense drones activated. Manual override systems came online. Lyra followed him into the weapons room, her eyes wide. Why are you doing this? If you could give me to them and walk away. Rain checked a plasma charge. Yeah, I could. She stared. So why don't you? He looked her straight in the eyes. Because if we let monsters decide who lives or dies, then we're no better than them. For a moment, her breath caught. No one had ever said anything like that to her. No one had ever chosen her. The black ship dropped 2 mechanical pods onto the ground. Rain zoomed in with the cameras. Humanoid shapes emerged tall, smooth-armored figures with glowing red visors. And no faces. Trackers. They moved silently toward the outer wall of the scrapyard. Rain activated the first. Trap, a pair of old anti-grav loaders that crashed into the trackers like speeding tanks. One went down, the other? It didn't even blink. Just walked through the wreckage, dragging its metal arm behind it like a blade. Stay here, Rain told Lyra. Lock the door. She shook her head. You'll die. Not if I'm lucky. Rain moved through the maintenance corridors like a shadow. Years of experience kicked in. He wasn't a soldier anymore, but some habits never died. He took cover behind a loader. Frame and aimed. The tracker turned toward him. It had no eyes, no mouth, but somehow it still looked angry. Rain fired. The first shot hit the armor and bounced. The second, straight into its knee joint. The tracker stumbled but didn't fall. Damn things are smarter now. He muttered. It lunged. Rain dodged, rolled under a conveyor belt, and fired a sonic grenade behind him. The blast shook the metal walls. Sparks flew. He didn't wait to see the result. He ran back inside. Lyra paced the control room, her hands trembling. Her eyes scanned the screens tracking Rain's heat signature as he fought alone. And then her eyes stopped on something else. Another signal. Her mouth went dry. From orbit, another ship, her heart dropped. There's more of them, but this one wasn't dark. It had a signature, civilian, Earthborn. Rain's ID tag. She blinked. His old ship, it was locked in orbitant, receiving pings from her old tracker. They weren't just here for her. They were searching all the places he had been. She was putting him in more danger than she thought. She had to act. Lyra opened the emergency cabinet. Inside, a dusty old sidearm unloaded, outdated, but familiar. She'd never fired a weapon. She'd never been allowed to, but she remembered. Watching. Every slave had to learn the behavior of their owners, including how they killed. Hands shaking, she loaded the weapon, slid it into her hoodie, and left the room. The hallway lights flickered. Smoke from the earlier explosion crept through the air like a whisper of war. She followed it. Rain had managed to disable one tracker, but the second was relentless. He stumbled back, shoulder grazed, chest heaving. The tracker raised its blade arm. Then, no. Single shot, it hit the joint behind the tracker's head. The machine spun, confused. Another shot, lower spine. It collapsed, twitching. Rain blinked behind it. Lyra stood. Arms trembling, face pale, lips parted in shock. She had fired twice and saved him. He rushed to her. "What the hell are you doing here?" "I couldn't sit and wait," she whispered. "Not while you risk everything." Rain looked at the fallen tracker. "You've never held a gun before, have you?" "No," she whispered. "But I watched them use it." "I just remembered." Rain took the weapon from her carefully. "Then next time, you remember to let me handle it." Lyra laughed weakly. "Next time." He smiled. "Oh, we're just getting started." As they walked back, Rain said, "They'll come again." "With more," Lyra nodded. "I know, but now we know what we're fighting." She turned to him. "Do you still want to fight? For someone like me?" Rain didn't hesitate. "No. One fights for you, Lyra. They fight beside you. And I'm not going anywhere." Lyra looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, her enemies waited. But for the first time in her life, she wasn't running. She was standing, and she wasn't alone. The scrapyard was quiet again, but it didn't feel peaceful. The two tracker units now lay in pieces outside the southern gate. Their armor cracked, their red visors shattered. The scent of scorched metal hung in the air like a warning. Inside, Rain repaired the blast doors while Lyra sat on a supply crate nearby, arms wrapped around her knees. "They came faster than I expected," Rain muttered, tightening the bolts. Lyra didn't speak. Her face was pale again, but her eyes were sharper now, like something had awakened in her. "They'll send more," she said. Rain nodded. "Yeah, and next time, it won't just be machines." Back in the workshop, Rain placed the broken tracker chip on the table. He stared at it. It blinked faintly, still active, even destroyed. "It's still trying to broadcast," he said. Lyra stood beside him. "They don't build things to die, only to obey." Rain picked up a soldering iron. "Then maybe it's time to do something they didn't program for." He opened a drawer and pulled out a strange-looking modules, something Lyra had never seen before. "What's that?" "A ghost signal scrambler. If I tune it right, I can make your tracker chip send fake coordinates, lead them to an empty moon or a dead system." Lyra blinked. "You're going to lie to them?" Rain grinned. "Isn't that what freedom looks like sometimes?" As Rain worked, Lyra watched him closely. "How many times have you done this?" she asked softly. "Too many," he replied. "I've lied to pirates, tricked warlords, and escaped bounty hunters, but never for someone else." She tilted her head. "Why now?" He paused, then answered without looking up. "Because I saw someone they tried to erase. Now you're still here. That means you're stronger than them." For a long moment, neither spoke. Then a beep echoed through the console. Rain leaned in. "Done. The chip now tells them you're in orbit around Epsilon 12, dead rock. No atmosphere. They'll waste a day flying in circles." Lyra smiled faintly. "You're good at this." Rain smirked. "I'm human. We're annoyingly creative." Suddenly, the power flickered. The lights dimmed for a second. Rain's eyes narrowed. That's not good. He checked the system's external pulse. Detected, someone was jamming the energy grid. Another ship had arrived. This one wasn't silent. Its signature blared. Cross every frequency, like a declaration authorized retrieval by Directive 119 Theta. Lyra paled. That's the main unit. Not machines. Not bounty hunters. Rain frowned. Then who? She whispered the word like a curse. Handlers. Rain moved fast. The base's main generator couldn't be saved under interference, but he had backup cells. He tossed a weapon belt toward Lyra. Time to choose. Run or fight. She caught it. I've run enough. Rain handed her a compact plasma sidearm. Small charge. Light recoil. Don't aim unless you mean it. Lyra held it tightly, her hands no longer shaking. What about the escape tunnel? She asked. Rain shook his head. They'll expect that. But there's another way, one even they don't know. He walked over to a wall panel, removed it, and revealed a narrow shaft filled with cables. This leads to the abandoned reactor. Core. We exit through the air vent above. Lyra crawled in without hesitation. Rain followed and sealed the wall behind them. The crawl was slow, tight, and hot. Lyra's breath echoed in the dark tunnel. Rain's voice guided her. You okay? I'm not afraid of small spaces, she replied. Rain chuckled softly. We might be the only two people in the galaxy who aren't. At the end, they emerged into a dusty, forgotten room lined with old coils and cracked power cells. Lyra looked up at the ceiling. A grated vent let in faint light. We're under the mountain path, Rain explained. It leads to a hidden hangar. One of my old smugglers' tricks. She stared. You have a ship. Rain gave a sly grin. Did you think I live here because I'm poor? They climbed through the final hatch and entered the hangar. There it was, the wind howler, sleek, black, scratched by time, but still beautiful, like a wolf ready to run. You can fly that, Lyra asked. I built her, Rain said. Of course, I can. They boarded quickly. Systems hummed to life. Engines started. But just as Rain powered up the thrusters, boom, the outer hangar doors exploded inward. A figure walked through the smoke tunnel, humanoid but masked in a smooth silver helmet. Behind it came two armed guards in black uniforms. Lyra froze. That's one of them. My handler, Rain's. Hand hovered over the launch control. The figure raised a hand. Return the property, it said. Voice hollow. Or be terminated. Lyra stepped forward between Rain and the figure. I'm not property anymore, she said, voice strong. The handler's helmet turned slightly. You have no rights. Lyra's hand tightened on the plasma pistol. Rain whispered, you don't have to do this, but Lyra said, yes, I do. And then she fired. The plasma shot hit the handler square in the chest. But instead of falling, the figure stumbled back, a step, then steadied. Rain's eyes widened. Armor-plated, the handler raised his palm. A glowing red disc formed in the air aimed at Lyra. No. Rain shouted and tackled her down. A beam of red light flew past where her head had just been. It struck the wall behind them, melting. Steel like butter. The ship's alarms screamed to life. Shields breached. Internal threat detected, the onboard AI said calmly. Lyra coughed and sat up. I didn't know they had weapons like that. Rain stood, helping her up. That wasn't tech. That was something else. The handler stepped forward again, weapon recharging. Rain grabbed the pilot's console. We're out of time. The ship's engines roared as he slammed the launch lever forward. The wind howler jolted upward, smashing through the remains of the roof hangar doors. The two black uniformed guards inside the hangar were vaporized in the engine flare. But the handler? He leaped. He clung to the outer hull as they shot into the sky. Inside, everything shook. Lyra gripped the seat as G-forces pressed her down. Rain shouted over the roar, "He's on the hull. I need time to tilt the stabilizers and shake him off." Lyra looked out the viewport. The stars above blurred as the ship cut through the atmosphere. She whispered, "What is he?" Rain growled, "Something unnatural." Suddenly, the ship's lights flickered. Warning, external pressure on hull. Infiltration detected. Rain's heart dropped. He's trying to breach. A sudden groan came from the rear of the ship. Rain pulled up the emergency schematics. He's heading toward the maintenance airlock. He's going to try to get inside. Lyra stood. Rain turned sharply. "Where are you going?" She looked calm, too calm. "If he gets in, you won't stop." Him. Rain shook his head. "Neither can you." Lyra whispered, "I can try something else." She walked toward the back, alone, heart racing. The hallways dimmed as the lights flickered with each tremble of the hull. Then a hiss. The airlock door opened and the handler stepped inside. Silver armor glowing faintly in the emergency lights. Lyra stood at the end of the hall. He tilted his head. "You were made to obey." Her jaw tightened. "I was made, but not by you." He raised his arm, but before he could fire, Lyra closed her eyes. And then, everything changed. Rain felt it first in the cockpit. A wave of heat swept through the ship. The lights dimmed, then burned bright white. The consoles sparked, and warning signals began to stutter. Energy surge detected. Unknown source. Core destabilizing. He stared at the readings. It was coming from the rear of the ship. From Lyra in the hallway, the handler froze mid-step. Lyra's body glowed with soft white light. Her eyes had turned completely silver. Her hair lifted in the air as if underwater. "I didn't ask for this," she said softly. "But you forced it into me." The handler aimed his weapon, but before he could fire, the air bent. A pulse of energy exploded from Lyra's body. Invisible, but massive. The handler was thrown into the wall, his armor cracking. Sparks burst from every seam. He tried to stand, but the floor under him buckled. Lyra floated slightly off the ground. Surrounded by shimmering waves of light, the ship groaned around her, absorbing the power. "I'm not a tool," she said. "I'm not yours." With one last pulse, the handler's armor shattered completely, sending him flying through the airlock. He disappeared into the void of space without a sound. The lights returned to normal. The ship stabilized. Lyra collapsed to the floor, breathing heavily, her skin slowly returning to its violet tone. Rain ran in and caught her. She opened her eyes, weak. "I didn't mean to." Rain shook his head. "You saved us." She whispered, "They made me forget what I was. I think I was meant for more than obeying." Rain looked at the scorched walls, the ruined airlock, and the cracked floor. "You're a living weapon," he said quietly. "But you still have a choice." Lyra leaned against him. "Then I choose to never be used again." Later, as Rain repaired the outer stabilizers, Lyra sat in the cockpit, staring at her reflection. No scars, no wires, no numbers, just her. She touched the controls gently. "I felt it. Rain, power." Deep inside, they buried it, hid it, but it's still there. He nodded, sitting beside her. "We'll figure it out, one step at a time." She turned to him. "What if it happens again? What if I lose control?" Rain smiled softly. "Then I'll be there to catch you, just like today." The stars stretched. Ahead wide, endless, and finally free. And for the first time in her life, Lyra whispered with hope, "Where do we go now?" Rain looked out the window. "Anywhere you want." The stars blinked gently across the dark window of the wind howler as the ship drifted in orbit over a quiet moon. Inside, silence reigned. Lyra stood in the small cargo bay, arms crossed, eyes fixed on the stars beyond the viewport. She wasn't trembling anymore. She wasn't hiding under a blanket. She wasn't scared of her own voice. Rain walked in behind her, wiping his hands with a cloth. "Power cells are fully charged. We can leave whenever you're ready." Lyra didn't answer at first. Then she said, "I've never chosen where to go." Rain leaned beside her. "Then you're about to make your first real choice." She looked at him. "There are others like me." Rain nodded. "You think they're still alive?" She hesitated. "I don't know. But if even one is, I can't just fly away and pretend it's over." Rain didn't try to change her mind. He never did. Instead, he walked to the console and pressed a few keys. A screen lit up. A star map zones marked with known trafficking routes, lab signatures, and redacted signals once thought erased. Rain pointed. "This one, Vera Station. You said that's where you were made." Lyra nodded slowly. "Sector 9. Then let's go stir up some ghosts." As the wind howler raced toward deep space, Rain and Lyra planned. Rain knew old contact smugglers who hated the labs. Captains who had lost crew to the same people. Who created Lyra. Together, they mapped a path through forgotten places. But the deeper they flew into the sector, the colder the air seemed to grow. One night, Lyra woke up sweating. Her chest ached, her head buzzing. Rain rushed in. "Another flare." Lyra nodded. "The energy, it's building again." Rain scanned her vitals. Her body temperature was rising, but her pulse was steady. He sat beside her. "You said they designed you, but they didn't understand you." Maybe even they didn't know the full truth. She took his hand. "If I lose control out there, what? If I hurt you?" Rain squeezed gently. "Then I trust you to pull yourself back. And if not, I trust myself to bring you back." For a moment, Lyra looked like she might cry. But instead, she smiled. Soft, quiet, stronger than ever. 2 days later, Lyra Station appeared like a wound in the sky. Vera Station appeared like a wound in the sky, broken, half-dead, but still clinging to life. No signals, no movement, looks abandoned. Rain muttered. Lyra stared. "It isn't." They docked in silence. Weapons ready. Inside, the station was cold and dark, but the halls whispered. Faint echoes of children's voices. Laughter once forced. Screams once silenced. Lyra walked slowly down the corridor. She touched the walls like they were pages of a forgotten book. "This is where they taught us to kneel," she whispered. "This is where they took our names." Rain walked beside her, silent and watchful. Then a sound, movement down the hallway. Rain raised his blaster. "We're not alone." They turned the corner and froze. There, behind a force field, were 3 figures. 2 children, alien maybe, 10 or 11 in Earth years, and an older girl, maybe 16, holding them close. When she saw Lyra, her eyes widened. You were one of us." Lyra stepped forward. "You're still here?" The girl nodded. "They left months ago. Shut the station down. But they didn't take us." Rain quickly accessed the panel and lowered the shield. The older girl hesitated. "Why should we trust you?" Lyra stepped forward. "Because someone trusted me when I didn't trust myself. And now I want to do the same." The girl studied her, then slowly took her hand. Back on the ship, the younger children clung to Lyra. The older girl sat quietly beside Rain in the co-pilot chair. "You could have sold them," she said. Rain smirked. "You clearly don't know humans." Lyra walked in, tired but glowing. "They're safe now," she said softly. "But they need a home." Rain nodded. We'll find one. She looked at him. And what about me? He turned to face her fully. That depends on what you want. Lyra blinked. No one's ever asked me that. Rain said nothing. Lyra took a breath. Then whispered, I want to stay. He smiled. Then welcome home. As the stars stretched before them, the wind howler soared again no longer carrying just 2 survivors, it carried hope for a future no one could have imagined. And at its heart, a girl who once shivered in the dark. Now, warm, now alive, now free.